Welcome to the Budaya Model Farm and Training Center in Liberia, where we serve among the Muslim unreached people group called the Gola. Budaya stands for God's Garden in the Gola dialect. Our home and the training center sit in the middle of 50 acres of lush jungle, and we're in the process of transforming a portion of that into productive farm ground. Now, farm ground in Liberia is not quite the same as farm ground in the Midwest. Because it's in the rainforest and we get a lot of rain with a 6-month rainy season, we have to do agriculture quite a bit differently. Here, we're not focused on annual crops as much as we are perennial crops. And with that, we've planted a food forest, and we've also planted a lot of perennial crops like cassava and pineapple. In this food forest, we've planted more than 100 trees, and we have more on the way. Everything from cashew to avocado to breadfruit to jackfruit to tropical almonds to mango to oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits, all the various types of citrus, to thousands of pineapples. We have a little bit of everything that you can grow in the tropics here. And the idea is that every month out of the year, every day of the year, I could walk out there and find something to eat. The goal of having the land produce every day of the year is to have it self-sustainable every day of the year, self-funding this ministry eventually, and that's what we're going to teach other people to model after us. Inside the training center is a 28 by 40 foot space where we can teach over 100 people at a time. It includes running water, it includes 24-hour electricity. There are also 2 guest rooms, a full bath, and a small office. Now that the training center is complete and we are back in Liberia, we are going to launch our pilot training program and bring in some qualified individuals from the local church and train them in both theological training and church planting and agriculture. And that way, from the beginning of a church plant, the DNA is of self-sustainability.
I've been working with families in crisis and in orphan prevention for over a decade. Never did it cross my mind that my family would be in crisis. We went home in October 2021 for what we thought was just a few months, but ended up being 18. Our son Sekou was very sick. Our first hospital stay revealed he had more invasive brain damage than we had earlier thought, probably from the increased seizures between having COVID twice and growing in age. We already knew the right side of his brain was completely damaged from his original stroke in 2013. What was new information to us was the damage to his left frontal lobe and severe bilateral hippocampus sclerosis. Over the last year, we've gone from believing, hoping, and praying for healing to accepting whatever God's plan is for Sekou. He's continued to decline and is no longer able to manage his secretions. He had a feeding tube installed because he forgot how to swallow and can no longer safely eat without aspirating. Several bouts of pneumonia have weakened his little body, and any sign of runny nose seems to land us in the hospital within a couple of days. His seizures continue to break through medications and his VNS therapy implant, which stimulates his brain to combat the seizures. His meds are maxed out, and he is not a candidate for brain reconstructive surgery. Along the way, we switched from healing care to palliative care to hospice. But there is no clear timeline about how long he will be with us. We are seeing his little personality slowly fade away. There's a lot of tears, along with joyful memories being made here. We've had some discussions with the other kids about heaven and how Sekou will someday dance and sing with Jesus, fully healed and whole. All the while, we are thankful for each and every day with him. The last 9 years have been some of the most sanctifying and beautiful because Sekou joined our family. Our goal is now to bring him joy and comfort every single day. We waited on green cards, and once they were issued and school was out, we left for Liberia. It was a hard decision to make, one bathed in prayer and counsel from our mission, church leadership, our hospice nurse, the chaplain, the social worker. Now that we're here, it feels just as hard as Sekou declines. But make no mistake, the joy it brought Sekou to see his birth father was worth every anxious whisper to Jesus. His body continues to weaken, but his mind has days where it's sharper. Thank you so much for standing by us this last year and for being patient with us as we've isolated a bit in our grief. The time in the States has solidified my thoughts that we don't have to go to Africa to follow Jesus, but let him love us and use us to love others wherever we're at. Francis of Assisi once said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words."
Are you smiling? Yeah.
The upcoming election in October has paused many of our ministries, including the medical clinic and trying to purchase an ambulance for our region. So for me right now, I'm focusing a lot on the kids and their grief and how they process things and trying to love Sekou as well as we can. As we close, we ask for your prayers for our kids, young and old, as each process and grieve Sekou's decline in their own way. We ask for prayers for peace in all the unknowns. Please also pray for Eric and I as we feel tattered and worn, but steadfast to finish what God has called us to here. Thank you so much for your love and for your support all these years.